Hi, everybody in kindergarten through fourth grade. Um, we are in another Wednesday computer class. We have this week and next week one more before we get to our spring break week. So, two more computer classes to go. And in these two that we're going to do this week and next week, we are going to look at things to do with maps, geography, and tools that you can find on computers and the internet to look around our world, to look around our planet, to look around local places, to look around and learn where parts of the world or parts of your neighborhood or parts of our country are. And today is all about Google Earth. Now, before we do anything, let me just say this. I made up a document here, right? And I'm going to go through this document in the video. So you really kind of have two ways that you can do this. If you want, you can watch me do all of these things and all of these steps in the video that I'm going to do pretty quickly and talk about them. And you can watch me, then you can do it yourself. You could go back and forth, pausing every once in a while, like we've talked about and I've suggested before. Or, and maybe this is a little bit more for my third and fourth graders, if you think that you can just look at this document and you can pretty much figure these things out on your own because you've used Google Earth before, you know about it, and that you can kind of go through it on your own, then you can do that. You can kind of pause or stop the video whenever you like, and you don't have to let the whole video that you're watching right now play. And you can go ahead and do those things on your own. All right, so I'm going to start going through it step by step. Google Earth is a tool online that lets us view our planet and zoom in on pretty much anywhere on our planet, learn more about those places, see them in detail, and it also has a lot of other features and things that you can do, but that's the main idea. So there is a link that was on the Google Classroom posting or on this document. You actually just click right here where it says Google Earth, and it will take you to Google Earth, right? Which looks like this. It's a website made by Google, and it's a tool. Now, I will tell you that it is so much information and data that it may run just a little slowly on a Chromebook. If you have a really fast, more expensive, better computer, Google Earth runs pretty fast. Also, it has to do with your internet connection. On Chromebooks, it may run a little bit slow. Just try to be patient. Don't get worried. Don't get frustrated. It's going to be okay. All right, now back to our document. Before we actually do anything, we want to think about how this is made, right? Because this isn't like a computer animation like in a video game or something that you would see somebody make that is just something like you play online. This is actually made from real images taken of our planet. Now, some of them are bigger, right? So we see like big images with the air zoomed out, but then we can also zoom in so closely. You'll see in a little bit. And the short answer is that they're all taken by satellites. Satellites, these different pieces of technology that have been put up into space that go around or orbit our planet all day and all night, every day. And there's hundreds, maybe even thousands of these up in the night sky that we barely even notice or barely even see. But they're always going around our planet. And what they have done is they have continued to use different types of photography, different types of cameras to take pictures of just about every single spot on our planet. And then Google and companies Google has worked with have put all of those pictures together, millions and millions and millions and maybe even billions of pictures to go ahead and create what is called Google Earth, right, using satellite images. Now back to our document, there is a quick YouTube video that I'm not going to pull up right now. I think it's only about 3 or 4 minutes long, but it explains a little bit more about satellites. So if you haven't heard of satellites before, you're not sure what they are, or you want to learn a little bit more about them, you could go ahead and click on this video and learn a little bit more about satellites that are then used to take the pictures that make Google Earth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn how to navigate Google Earth, or how to get around in it and how to use it. I know you see a lot of different buttons, a lot of different icons, a lot of different things all around, and every one of them have different uses. But let's right now just think about the basics, right? First, if you put your mouse somewhere on where you see the planet for now, or as we zoom in different places, and you click and hold with your trackpad or with your mouse, and you move it, you slide it, you'll move that map around, right? It could go up and down, left and right, diagonally, and you can move that map all around. Now, right now, we're zoomed out as far as you can go, so it looks like our planet floating through space. But what you can also do is you can zoom in. And I'm sorry, I meant to mention that over here in the corner, it gives you kind of a little preview because in the main screen, it'll show some clouds and it'll show some other things that might make it appear a little unusual. But it'll give you a simpler version of that globe that you're looking at over here in the bottom right corner, so that you can tell kind of what part of the globe, what part of our world you're looking at. Now, and I started doing this by accident, but what we want to do after we've worked on just turning it and looking at it a little bit is we want to work on looking at places closer up, right? Zooming in or sometimes zooming out. And so we have a plus and a minus button down here. And if we go ahead and use that plus button, we can see that we can start to zoom in. And as we zoom in, I see that there become some labels. For instance, right here, I see the label for our country, the United States. And those are the main two ways you're going to navigate a lot of the way that you use Google Earth, by clicking and holding and moving that globe around, and then zooming in or zooming out to look and find different places all around the globe and in Google Earth. All right, so I see that I'm in the United States. I'm in our country, but our country is big. There's so many different places. I could continue to zoom in, and as I keep zooming in, it will start to give me more labels because now I've zoomed to a point where it gives me labels of all the different states. So I see Oklahoma, Illinois, Kentucky, Virginia, and then some up here where they're a little smaller, so they abbreviate those states. And maybe we all know from our kindergartners through our fourth graders that if we see the abbreviation NJ on a state, that means we found New Jersey, right? We're going to get back to that in a minute, but one more thing about navigating is that sometimes your globe could get turned. Sometimes your globe could get, or your Google Earth could get turned so that things don't really look the way that we're used to usually seeing them, with some things being above others, some things being below others. For instance, I think a lot of us know that Florida down here is below New Jersey, the way that we typically always think about it. If this globe, which we think about it, is really just a big giant ball floating through space, if it happened to get turned, right, and seemed like it wound up in a weird direction where all of a sudden, oh, there's New Jersey again, but Florida isn't down below it like we think of. Florida's over here. Well, that's where this little compass icon comes in handy, because what you can do is give it a click and it will rotate that globe back to the way that we usually think about it. And really, the globe can be turned in any direction. Anywhere can be above anywhere else or to the side of anywhere else, depending on how you turn it, just like how you could turn a soccer ball or a baseball. But there's ways that we all as humans are used to looking and thinking about it in our minds, and that compass will help us to point it in that direction that we're used to if we need to. All right? So those are the main things to know about navigating Google Earth. And now we want to think about how there's different map styles, and I'll say this one very quickly. Over here on the left, there's a lot of icons, and we are not going to use all of them today. Some of them I would prefer you didn't use. Some of them get a little tricky. Some of them are more advanced. Some of them aren't necessary for today. But one of them is this right here that looks like a diamond on top of maybe another diamond underneath of it. And it gives us different styles of maps. And what we could do is we could say that we want to just look at our Earth in like a clean version where there's no labels, there's no borders, it doesn't show any roads, it doesn't show where one country starts and another ends, where any states are, and we just look at it the way that it would look at it if, say, we were looking at the Earth from a telescope, somebody looking at it from like the moon. This is what they would see, or looking at it from a spaceship. This is all they would see, like a clean version, right? Then we could say that we want to see it as if we're exploring, which is the way that I showed it before, and usually the way that it'll start off when you first open Google Earth. So, if we want to see exploration, it will label some things. It will show us some borders. Like here, I have another place that's very easy to identify, the country of Italy, which a lot of people say is shaped like a boot. There's the tip of the boot and the heel of the boot and the leg of the boot going up. A lot of people say that, but now it gives us the label for it. And if we zoomed in a little bit more, or where we looked around at other places that are easier to spot, we could see that it gives us some border lines of how those places have been divided up by countries, by governments. If we wanted to see everything, there's even more, because we could click on this map view or map style, and it will give us even more, because as we zoom in, it's going to give us even more landmarks, information, more of the smaller detailed roads, like down to every single street in your neighborhood or where you are. It's also going to give us some points of interest, like if there's landmarks, well known places. Last but not least, if you want to experiment with it, you can, but I'm not really going to do it much, is you can customize exactly what you want to see, right? If you choose that custom map style, you can pick where you do want to see landmarks, but you don't need to see every little road. Or you do want to see labels of places, like their names of countries, of states, of different places, but you don't need to see the roads or the landmarks and things. So you can look at it and customize it. You really don't need that today. I'm going to put it back on exploration, which is probably the most common way to look at it. Okay, now let me zoom back out, and we're going to try to see how we would go about doing some tasks, and then I have some tasks for you to try on your own. Now, um, we're going to look at the first couple together, and then I'm going to leave you to try some on your own. But keep in mind that since this is for kindergarten through fourth grade, I only expect that everybody tries their best. I'm more focused on that we try, that we learn a little bit, that we think about Google Earth and the world around us and looking at geography and maps on the internet. If you have a mom, dad, brother, or sister, somebody there helping you, you maybe can find out or do things with a little more detail, a little more information. If you don't, it might be a little harder, and you might just want to explore the map a little bit more in the best way that you can, and that's okay. All right, but let's look at some tasks that we're going to do together right here, where it says searching for places. So we're going to find Weymouth School, I'm going to give an example of finding a house, and then finding the Statue of Liberty, right? So I am going to go back to Google Earth, and the first task was finding Weymouth School. So we could go and scroll around and find New Jersey and start to zoom in and then get closer and closer and try to find it that way. But you might have noticed there's this search icon, this magnifying glass right here. And if we use that, we can go ahead and type things in, like I might type in Weymouth Township School and press enter. Sometimes it'll give me more than one result. But if it does, then I can click on it. But once I do that, it's going to zoom in a little more easily and a little more closely to where I'm looking for. Now, I don't know why it actually gives two different locations for Weymouth Township School and Weymouth Township School District. I think this Weymouth Township School District is just like the whole area that people could be from. But for the specific place, here's Weymouth Township School, and there's a little marker over it. And if I keep zooming in, look how close I can get. I can zoom in so closely that I can spot the entryway where the buses come, the flagpole right here, right? The entire shape of our building, the gazebo, right here with the basketball court and playground and backfield and everything around it. And you guys all should be able to recognize that this is our school if you were to look at it from the sky, from those pictures taken by satellites, by the photography in satellites. Really, really cool. Now, excuse me. Um, The next thing that you can do is you can try to find your house. For this one, there's two different ways you can do it. Let's say you live pretty close to the school and you know how to get from school to your home. And you can imagine right here, oh, well, I know that from the school I would first go down this street, then go down this street. You can use that combination, like we said before, of moving your mouse around, right? By clicking and dragging on the trackpad or on your mouse. You might zoom out a little bit, right? And you might look around and say, oh, well, I know that when we drive home from school, we don't go down this road and then we go down this road, or maybe in this direction and then down this road. And you might be able to go and do that and then zoom back in and find your house that way. Okay? Now, that's one way to do it, and you might surprise yourself because you might say, oh, I was able to find it, and that was really cool. Or you might say, wow, looking at it from up above like this looks totally different than what I would normally picture, and that's a little hard for me to find. So if you can't find your house that way, and finding our homes on map or Google Earth type program is something that every kid loves to do. One other thing that you can do is you can search for your address. I would expect that most of you should be able to know and type in your address, but if you can't, maybe ask an adult or get an adult to help you, and go ahead and click on that search icon again and type in your address. I'm going to go ahead and type in an address of a place in my town. It's not going to be my actual house, but I live in a town called Williamstown, and I'm going to type in um, 100 North Main Street, Williamstown, New Jersey. Now, that's not my house, but it's in the town that I live in. And, oops, I X'd out before it found it. Hold on, let's try that one more time. All right. And it's zooming in on that home, wherever that is. Let's see, it's one of the places in my town. I've probably walked past that many, many times in my life, and it zoomed in there. Now, after it did, I don't need this open anymore, so I can X out of it, but I can find and I can zoom in even closer, 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 and find that specific home. Again, this isn't my house. I just used a street that I knew of in my town and pretended that I was finding this specific house. I found it and pretending as if that's my home, that I can then zoom in and see if I recognize my street, my yard, my house, maybe my driveway, maybe my backyard, my neighbors or neighborhood. All right, something that's really interesting and really fun to do. All right, now our next task is to think about more information and street view. Now, this is something that's really interesting and really fun to do, and we're going to use it by looking at the Statue of Liberty, right? So I'm going to use that technique that we already saw and type in Statue of Liberty. Okay, it's going to find it, and this is a very, very well-known place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two different things here, two different things that we can see when we go ahead and we look at Google Maps. We can sometimes look and we can see places of interest, or we can also see Google Street View. Now, places of interest, it comes up with these little markers right here. Sometimes it'll come up with a blue, sometimes it'll come up with a red. And if you do a search and you see those, right, what you can do is click on them and you'll see that a box will pop up over here on the side and it will give you more information about what you're looking at. You can click more info, right? You can go ahead and you can um, read all about it and even click on more links to find out more about the place that you're seeing. So here we searched and we saw the Statue of Liberty that is right on the border of New York and New Jersey. And we can go ahead and look around. We can zoom in and out. We can turn it with that compass again. And makes it really, really interesting. And we could click, here's the Statue of Liberty Museum and another one of those places of interest that we can click on to look and read more about it. Maybe check out, it'll also have some pictures, that photographs of that actual location that we could go and look at. And that's really interesting and cool to do when you're at some famous places. Now, the other thing you can do is called Google Street View. And Google Street View is really amazing because what it is it lets us see lots and lots of places in the world and in Google, by looking at it as if we were standing on the ground or standing on the street. Here in the Statue of Liberty, if I click on this icon that looks like a person right here over in the right, everywhere I see that's blue, right? All these blue markings are where there have been Google Street View pictures added. If I say, for instance, clicked right in here, it's going to go and it's going to take me into Google Street View. And at first, it can look a little bit cartoony. It can look a little bit like it's a video game, but it'll get to the point where we go and see that it's actual images. It's actual photos that are in 360 degrees, meaning that you can turn them, you can look all around, right? And you can see the actual places that you're finding on the map. Now you might say, Mr. Henderson, how do satellites take pictures like this? Well, they don't. When we looked in the other view and we were looking down at the Earth or at New Jersey or at Weymouth School or at our house, those images are taken by satellites up in space. When you see images in Google Street View like this, these are taken by people on the ground, either in cars that go around for Google. Google actually pays people to go around in cars, and they have a special camera mounted on top of them that take tons and tons, and I'm talking about millions and millions of pictures all around our world. Or it might be that somebody who owns a type of camera that can do that went to this location, like maybe they were there that day and they took a Google Street View picture and then uploaded it for Google to use. You can find these all over the place. And if you click on Street View, you can explore on your own and look at somewhere like Disney World, somewhere like Times Square, somewhere like around your house, somewhere like a famous city like in New York or Los Angeles or any other place you could think of, and see if there's Street View pictures that let us explore the world around us through this program in a totally awesome way. All right, I'm going to get out of Street View right now just by clicking on that icon again. And then I am going to just quickly, because I know this video is starting to get a little long, explain the rest of the tasks here, right? Now, all that I ask is that anyone, whether you're in kindergarten or anywhere through 4th grade, you do your best, right? You do your best. Excuse me. So, as you're doing this, I have for number 6 a scavenger hunt, where I ask you things, and I'll read what they say for anybody that might need a little help with the reading, to find Florida. Find what other states touch the ocean near Florida. Find out what are 2 islands underneath of Florida. Find Hawaii. See if you can tell if Hawaii looks closer to the U.S., our country, the United States, or to Japan. See if you can find any other island in the ocean. Do a search for the pyramids of Giza. See how many pyramids you can find. And find what's the name of another place near Egypt that looks like it's a desert, right? All of those things can be done in Google Earth. I'm going to zoom way out again. Using those techniques that we talked about today, using those techniques that we said of searching, of clicking and dragging to move around, of zooming in and out, sometimes using Google Street View, you can do all of those things. Now, boys and girls, this is not a quiz. This is not where you have to get these right answers or you get a bad grade, or you get points off. This is for something for you to learn, something for you to look at the world around you, something for you to think about as we talk about geography and maps and how computers and technology can help us look at the world around us. If you're in kindergarten, you might not be able to do too many of these. You try your best, and that's okay, unless a parent or somebody older helps you. If you're in third or fourth grade, I would think that you can. If any of them you get to and they're a little bit difficult and you're not sure, it's okay. They're to think about and see if you can figure out about the world around us. And as you're doing it, if you wind up exploring and you want to see a little bit more in South America, or you go ahead and you look over in other continents and other countries in our world, and you think of other famous things like the Great Wall of China, and you want to check them out, or you are interested in another country, like over here in Europe, say you're interested in Germany or you're interested in Spain, you can go ahead and take time today to explore, check out those places, look around, use Google Street View, use zooming in and out, and really enjoy learning about the world around you. My very last point, this would be extremely hard for kindergarten, maybe first and second grade, but Google has done an awesome thing. They have taken a video game that came out when I was in elementary school, and when we were allowed to use computers in elementary school, it was one of the only three things that we were allowed to do. It's a very old game called Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And it's old fashioned, and it was very simple, and it was all just text that you had to read. And what Google did is they actually made a version of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego that you can do along with Google Earth. I put a link to it right here. Kindergartners, first graders, second graders, if you have an adult and they're working with you and they want to check that out with you and give it a try, then you might like it and might have fun. Third and fourth graders, you may have checked it out with me before, or you might want to check it out now and you might find it interesting. You don't have to do it, it is totally optional, but if you do wind up wanting to do that, you have a little extra time, I put the link there so that you can. All right, everybody, I hope that you enjoyed doing this today. I hope you find it interesting. Have a little fun, and if you need anything, make sure you send me a message in Google Classroom or through email. Have a great day, and I will see you next time.